I'm Felicity from Felicity Duke-Sewing, and today we're going to be making a stocking. Not any old stocking, but a beautiful velvet stocking. Don't be scared. Yes, it's velvet, but you don't have to do it in velvet. You can do it in anything you wish to do. If you would like the pattern for this scrumptious stocking, it's in the descriptions below. Okay, this is what you'll receive. It looks like a lot of writing, but I did my best to share my very special pattern with you. Now, if you download the pattern, you will need to cut around here. That's your main stocking, so you need to cut a pattern for that. You need to cut a pattern for here, which is the cuff. You need to cut a pattern for this. You need to cut a piece of pattern around there. But obviously you must do your outer fabric the whole piece. Right, so you also need your outer fabric, your lining and interlining. Now, interlining is not the same as interfacing. Interlining is another layer inside which gives stability. So it's not like interfacing, not stiff like interfacing. It just gives a bit more oomph and a bit of stability. Okay, so you need to cut those 3 different ones from there. You need to cut the same 3 for the whole stocking. You need something for the toe, and you need something for the heel. Right, and obviously the lining for the inside of this stocking. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to use for my stocking. Right, so I'm going to make another one. I'm not making a blue one this time. That's not very good, is it? Right, so here are the pieces that you should have. You should have main piece of stocking. Now you will see that I've asked you to cut on a piece, so you cut off that piece of the stocking. It will all become clear later. Cuff, heel, toe. Right, so here I have 3 pieces of stocking, the main pieces. I have got here some red velvet, which I'm using. I have some leopard print I'm going to use for the lining. Yes, I'm a little devil. And also I have some interlining, which I'm using some cotton. All right, cotton's best if you've got it, any old cotton, old sheet or anything, but just use that to machine around all your pieces. Right, so that's that. There's the 3 different ones for your cuff. Here are the pieces that I've Bondawebbed on. If you don't know how to Bondaweb, it's very easy. You just iron it onto your fabric, peel the paper off the back, and then iron it onto wherever you want it to go. Now, I am going to iron this on, although you shouldn't iron on velvet, and particularly round the right way. I will be doing that, but I won't be going actually near the velvet. So I've got this and this. Right, you need something that you can embellish with. I'm actually going to use some diamante around the edge. I'll show you as I go along. I'm also got, look at this, isn't this amazing? You can find these on eBay, by the way. They're not super expensive. I think this was about £6. So just do a search for very large brooch. Okay, I've also got this here. This is a pen that I use. It's a gel pen. I like to use this for marking around patterns and things. It doesn't disappear like chalk, like that. If you have a walking foot, put that on your machine. If you don't, you will just have to put masses of pins in. Right, so I'm going to get on. What we have to do now is to machine all the interlining pieces to the pieces of velvet. So I'm going to get on and do that. So as you can see, I'm now machining the interlining onto a cuff piece. Don't worry if it slips slightly. You need to add your interlining on with quite a narrow seam allowance. Your seam allowance for the whole cushion will be about 1/4 of an inch or just over. So you want to make sure that this line is within the seam allowance. Okay, so that's fine. I've finished that one. I'm now going to crack on and do the same thing with all the pieces, the main stocking pieces and the other side of the cuff. I strongly recommend that if you don't possess a walk-in foot, that you place your pins horizontally like this and machine over them so the velvet doesn't slip. Okay, but a walk-in foot is a great investment. Right, so I've now machined right the way round the edge, attaching the back of the velvet onto a piece of cotton. I've removed the paper from the Bondaweb and I'm now going to iron this on, taking a lot of care not to attach it to the actual velvet. I just want it to stay on there so that it doesn't slip. Of course, what you have to do at this point also is make up your mind which way you want your stocking to face, because the embellishment only goes on one side, or rather the heel and the toe only goes on one side. I always have mine facing left, so that if I want to hang all my stockings together, they're just all hanging nicely in the same way. Right, so this is the Bondaweb on here. Right, so I'm just going to peel off this piece of Bondaweb when I can get it, give it a squash up or something. Oh, crumbs. Typical. Let's try there. Yeah, there we go. That's off there. All right, so that I'm going to put on the end of the toe here. That's the toe piece. I'll just give that a press. Just thought I'd show you this. I've only had it for a couple of weeks, but look how thick it is. How thick is it? About 1/2 inch. And it's a lovely woolen, it's all wool, thick wool that you can put on the table to do your pressing. And I find it invaluable, particularly for doing small things. I mean, obviously, I think it's meant for patchworkers, which I'm not. But, yeah, get one of these. eBay again. I have now machined right the way round. Can you see the toe pieces, the toe piece and the heel? I'm now going to do a satin stitch down here and down there. I have set the machine at 4.5 and 0.5. All right, so 4.5 is the width and 0.5 is the length that I'm doing it on. Right, I've completed that. Satin stitch there, satin stitch there. I don't do a very closed up satin stitch for the simple reason that if it was to get knotted because it was so tight, I would have to unpick the velvet and start again. All right, so this is the best thing to do. Keep it, you can see at the back there better. I hope you can see that. All right, so now we need to put the velvets together. And this is where things go wrong sometimes, because you have two velvets playing against each other. One's trying to push that way, one's trying to push that way, and it can be very complicated. But stick to, as I said before, move that down. So I'm going to just get some pins horizontal on here and hope for the best that it doesn't move. So put them together and machine right the way round. Keep to either when you get to the toe part where it goes round a very small piece like so. You may like to slow the machine down if you're able to do that, and if not, make your stitch smaller. That will help you slow down. So I'm just going to pin this and then I'm going to machine right the way around. Right, just before I remove these pins, I've now machined right the way around. Before I remove these pins, I just want to show you so you don't underestimate the amount of pins you need when you're machining velvet. Okay, I'm now going to remove these, and when I've done that, I'm going to cut the seams down a bit. Now, it doesn't matter what size seam you do, providing you keep to that same seam right the way through, because the cuff has to fit on the top here, and if you've got one with a narrow seam and one with a wider one, obviously one of them's not going to fit properly. All right, so I'm just going to remove the pins and I'll be back. Right, so I've now cut seams down. Now, this piece that comes round a curve here, okay, you must snip it. Can you see? If you don't snip that, it won't turn. It'll just be very tight. Right, so I'm now going to turn it through. So now we need to sew these two together, which is the cuff. All right, don't forget to machine your interlining on there first. It does help, you know, with velvet if it has got some interlining with it. And then also down the side seams on this one. Now, I don't show you all of the machining that I'm doing because I'm sure you know what machining looks like. I think as long as I describe to you what you need to do, you should be able to do that. If not, you better have a go at me in the comments. There we are, both of the side seams on the cuff pieces. So now we want to turn this one round the right way and leave the velvet round the wrong way. And then put the two narrower pieces of the cuff inside, but it's the widest piece right the way round you need to machine. Then again, you will need to pin the hell out of it. Okay, so I'm going to pin this right the way round there, and then I'm going to machine it round. I'm now going to understitch for you. Now, understitching is done on the lining. Now we need to do that because if we don't, the lining may drop down below the cuff, and we don't want that to happen. And so this is one way to stop it, but there is another little trick I'll tell you about in a minute. But understitching goes on the lining, pull it apart, that's on the bottom part of the cuff, pull it apart. See how nicely the understitching keeps it keeps the lining from showing below. It makes this little lip along the top right the way around. Right, so the next thing I need you to do is to then machine around the top. Okay, around the top of the cuff. Now this time I want you to machine around the top of the cuff we've just done the bottom of the cuff. This is the top. I want you to make sure there's a little bit of the lining showing when you machine round. As you can see, I've machined right the way around the top and pulled the lining up so it shows. So now what you need to do is cut it down in line with the velvet. Okay, so I'll just cut that down. I have placed the something on the ground there, rolling around. So now we need to place the cuff over the top and machine it along the top to the stocking. We're now going to machine right the way around the lining, but leaving open between the two marks which are on the pattern. I notch, I'm a snipper, right the way around, but leaving open that piece at the back. Turn your stocking, your inside of your stocking, your lining round to the right side. Okay, and pop it inside, making sure that you put the back with the back of this, of the stocking. All right, so two backs together, two back seams together. Right, now the other thing that we need to do now as well, before I forget, which I do quite often when I make stockings, you need something to hang the stocking up with. Now sadly I cannot find anything silver. I have a whole drawer of gold, so it goes against my grain, but unfortunately I'm going to have to make a gold hanging piece to hang with. Right, so now we need to cut a piece as long as you want it, put it inside let's get this pin out, put it inside on the back seam, fold it over like this, place it downwards in the back and go over it a couple of times to secure it within the seam allowance. Lining is inside here. I am now going to machine right the way round the top. Right, so now we're very nearly finished. So here's the lining sewn around the top, the lining and the stocking. So we need to get our hand in the hole at the back of the stocking that you left free and pull everything through. Everything, the whole stocking too. Try not to crease it up too much if you can help it. Try not to pinch a bit for too long or too hard, otherwise you might have a few marks on your stocking. As I say, I'm a bit disappointed that I didn't have any silver hangy stuff. So I'm just going to have to suck it up and have gold instead. Never mind. I'm very fussy. So let's push that in there. Then let's turn the whole thing through. Right. Right, so we're nearly done. Nearly. But there's something really important that we've got to do first. There, look at that. It's coming along. Coming along beautiful. Right, okay, so the next thing you need is some wadding. Not much. Right, so you need to go through the hole that you made in the back of the stocking. Get your stuff in and start stuffing the toe so that it's nice and stiff. Right, so we're almost finished now. How exciting! I love it. I love it. Right, so I'm just going to do the hand sewing, put the brooch on, and then we will have a completed stocking. So here we are, finished. How can you not love this stocking? If you've got someone special to make a stocking for at Christmas, I'm sure this is the one. Now, if you haven't already got the pattern, you need to go into the descriptions underneath and you will find it. This pattern you need to hold on to, because I will be back very, very soon with other ideas for you, like the one behind and several more. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel and press that bell. Okay, I will be back very soon. Thank you very much for watching me. Bye for now.